Hi, Chris. How's my favorite intern?
I am so happy to be back co-hosting. I feel like, yeah, you had, you had your moment last week when you didn't even ask if I had time to record a podcast. You just went off and did it on your own, and I
I
noticed
did.
that the views were so low that
That's a lie.
they
That is
weren't.
a lie.
In fact, several people have reached out to me via Instagram, Facebook, and text messaging asking where I was last week. And I said that, you didn't even ask me if I was available. So
Yeah.
whatever. I mean,
Your
you
your
listen, you got to
followers,
be,
your followers have been inquiring.
yeah, yeah. And in fact, quite a few. So
hmm
I,
Wow.
but I'm back.
That's
I'm back. And
Chris is back. Chris is back. Well, in my defense, I was in another state and I was quickly in between airplane flights and I knew that I needed to record this podcast. So I did it solo. And
but
you're right.
you didn't even ask.
You're right. Okay. Yes, you're right. I did not ask my intern whether I could do a solo podcast or
Okay.
not.
Just,
And now,
I want you to stop
there's an
for a second.
uprising. There's an
There is. And,
uprising.
and I want you to hear me out. So
Okay.
you record this podcast. Don't even ask me.
hmm
Whatever. I mean,
hmm hmm
I'm hurt, as you can tell.
hmm
And
hmm
so I
hmm
say to you, you
Anger
know
is
what?
just hurt masked.
I say to you, you know what you should write your next you know what you should write your blog post about this week? Disappointment and managing your expectations. And that's what I said to you.
Oh, and I defied you on that one too.
And you did. However, I did read your upcoming thing, and we're going to get to it, but one of the things you talk about is making a list of all the things that you can't control. So I went ahead and made a list. So notice I crossed out everything, but the only thing that's not crossed out is Kristen calling me an intern.
Okay, the thing that you cannot
Okay.
control. You
So
can't
that's the
control it, so you
only
might as well just let it happen. So
no.
we're at acceptance.
Well, I'm not at acceptance yet, but I'm
Okay.
trying to
Okay.
read your blog this week. So
Mhm.
basically I thought that I'd like to go through the blog with what
Mhm.
you talked about this week and tell you how it affects me.
Okay, we're going to make this about you. Okay, I'm going to allow this because I I got some new followers because of you. Some ladies on the pickleball court. Shout out to the pickleball crew. We were hanging out last night and you plugged my podcast and my weekly brain droppings. And from that, I looked at my subscribers and those numbers, they went up. So maybe you are graduating from intern to like maybe PR, marketing. How do you feel about that? I mean, it's not quite co-host, but it's a step up on the ladder.
It is. And I think we're definitely in open negotiations right now
Okay. All
because
right.
during several of my pickleball outings, I do wear your disruptor shirt
I
with
appreciate
your
that.
website on the back. And
Mhm.
anyone who asks me, I talk about this podcast and the great things that you're doing, traveling around and talking to people about leadership and optimism. Um, and I get,
Sounds
and people ask about your website all the time. So I'm always, despite the fact that you're a terrible boss because of the way you
mhm.
treat me, um,
The
I am so,
conditions, your working conditions are horrific.
I know. So
Gosh.
you know what? Because you think that one 100-minute massage just takes it all away, which it was great.
I For our listeners, I didn't give that massage. I outsourced that massage. I
Yeah,
hired a
which
person to
I,
give you a massage. So,
I'm happy about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So listen, what you have just described as it really is like a publicist. So I think you know what you just got to work your way up from intern to PR to publicist to then perhaps to co-host. So we'll talk about it. But this week was inspired by actually a keynote that I delivered in both Boston and in Boise, Idaho. And there is a segment where I ask people to do what you just did. Is It's a homework assignment, I tell them, and I say, write down everything that is going wrong in your life. Write it down, write it out, everything that you're pissed off about, everything that is going wrong. And then cross off on that list the things that you cannot control. And you will find 99 out of 100 times that you have control over the things that are going wrong in your life. You don't feel as though your fitness is at the optimal level. You are in a job that you hate, a relationship that sucks the life out of you. We have a tendency to believe that we are in a jail cell, and we sit in that cell and we hold the key, or worse, the door is wide open and we just don't walk out of it. And I got some great feedback about that message. In fact, someone even posted a story on Instagram about how much it touched her. So I wanted to expound on it and to really challenge people and ask them, what if I told you that the jail cell that you think you're trapped in has been open this whole time? So today, let's talk about the myth of being stuck and how most of us are clinging to comfort and calling it captivity.
Yeah, like right now, I could get up and walk away
You
from this
could, you
podcast,
could,
but I'm the
you could.
co-host, so I can't. I have a responsibility to stay here. No, you know what? I really do love that, because one of the things I look forward to every week is you put out the "What are you pissed off about today?" And I love reading the things that people come across with, because most of them resonate one way or the
Mhm.
other, whether it's personal or professional or anecdotal, right? So
Yeah.
it's like they all resonate. So when I read this, it reminded me of that, because just how you talked about, we get to choose. I get to choose how I react to the way that you treat
Mhm.
me on this podcast. And
Is this the theme we're going with?
but
You're so fired. You're so fired.
yeah. So no, but like we get to react to the way things happen in life. And I just had this conversation the other day about someone that we know, and I said everything that's happening in his life is a direct result of the choices that he made. And you
Mhm.
cannot feel bad about that.
Mhm.
And now it's not that there shouldn't be empathy, it's not that we shouldn't have compassion, but everywhere where I am right now is a result of every choice that I've made in my life, good, bad, or
Mhm.
indifferent.
Right.
So
Mhm.
rereading what you wrote today about taking control of those feelings, about knowing that, all jokes aside, we're not stuck in a jail cell. The door's open. We have to make
Right.
the decision to move from our comfort to maybe being a little uncomfortable to get to the other side, to where we find our happiness.
Yeah. Don't you think though that so many people are trapped in that notion of, I'm going to call it what it is. It's victimization. And I'll actually lighten that term a little bit by introducing learned helplessness, which is a nicer way of saying victimization. And that is based on Martin Seligman's work and research on victimization, and how repeated disappointment or trauma can wire us to believe that we're powerless, even when we aren't. And it's a clinical way of saying that you've started to believe your own bullshit. And I know again that calling someone a victim, honestly, I think that's one of the harshest things that you can say to someone. Stop being a victim, even if it fits the bill. So I understand, I actually implicitly understand how hard it is to take ownership of our circumstances. It is so easy at work, if you're miserable, to point up there, the boss over there. And it seems to me that whenever you point in different directions of where the problem is, that you're not really pointing at yourself. So every time you think the problem is out there, that's kind of part of the problem. So there's a difference between being stuck and staying stuck. And I'm not suggesting that it's easy to leave a situation, especially a job where you're counting on a paycheck. So I know that these things take a lot of courage to make a move. So this is not easy. No one is sitting here saying it's easy. Just leave your job, leave your relationship. That is not the point. But once again, we get one life. And so you have to ask yourself, is this the life that when I get to the end of it, that I'm going to say, I feel great about the choices I've made?
Yeah, and I think I like the term learned helplessness much better because I feel like that's a more digestible term.
Hmm.
You know, it doesn't hurt when you hear that
Hmm.
compared to stop being a victim. Now, there's true victims out there, so we're not discussing
Mm.
that, right? This is being a victim of your situation of you're not doing anything to change or to open the cell door. But that's what I like about learned helplessness, right? It's like the elephant that's stuck to a stake. They put it there when it's a baby and it can't get out. And by the time it's old and it's stronger than that stake, it still won't try to pull the stake out, right? Learned helplessness.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point there. So that's why it's more palatable to say learned helplessness, because there are some people in relationships where they genuinely believe they are shackled. And that reminds me of that phrase that we accept the love we believe we deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they only have known abuse in their lives. And so I would hesitate to call them a victim. Instead, I would say that is learned helplessness. And I think that's the difference, is becoming enlightened to the idea, again, the difference between being stuck and staying stuck. And sometimes all it takes is for someone to tell you this is not normal. So I think that optimism is our edge here. And I am not talking about fluffy optimism. I am talking about tactical optimism, the belief that you can make choices and withstand discomfort. So think about that for just a second. What is the hardest period of any kind of transition? It's not always the time when you say, I am going to fix this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to leave this. That's the empowered point when you're like, I am ready to do it. Then the hard part comes, the transition. It's that period of time between deciding, yes, I want better for myself, so I'm going to make a change. And then you go through that horrible, tumultuous time that is change. It is painful, it sucks. And the only way to get to the other side is to go through the pain. And I think that we can empower people truly to understand the reality that it will not be easy to change. Whatever goal that you are set, whatever on your list of things that you wrote is wrong in your life, and the thing that you can change if you choose, it is going to be extremely difficult before it gets easy. And so I think that the best way um, to get through it is to keep your eye on the other side. What does it look like when you have attained that thing, whatever that might be? And what does it look like if you pursue that thing you're afraid of failing, if you leave that relationship, if you leave that job? What does it look like on the other side? Success. And that is what gets you through the transition phase, the pain phase.
Well, and I think that a lot of people struggle because we're looking at the finish line,
Hmm.
right? We make a decision, we want to change, it's uncomfortable, but we're looking at the finish line instead of just looking 1 foot ahead of us. We have to,
Hmm.
when we're going through something hard, sometimes just baby digestible chunks.
Hmm.
It's like somebody who struggles with addiction. You can't say I'm never going to have a drink. There are days where you're like, I am not going to drink for the next 2 minutes. And so I think that's with every difficult decision in our lives that this is where I am. This is where I want to be. I
Mhm.
can't just constantly look to the finish line because there are so many things that I have to get over to get there. Sometimes I just have to take one step at a time, get through that discomfort, find my security in it, and then move on to the next set.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because I tend to focus on the goal. I think we're both saying the same thing because I like to look at the goal. What will it look like on the other side of this achievement, whatever it may be? And then, of course, the small steps that get us there. But I often think that focusing on, just the hurdles that we have to get over makes us trip. It's like if people tell you don't focus on the obstacle, what we always do is we focus on the
Right.
obstacle, right? And so I guess this is a personal thing, whatever motivates you. For me, it is I always look at the other side. What will this look like when I get to the other side? And then, we talk about how optimism feels, this tactical optimism is you see options instead of barriers, whether it be speed bumps, hurdles, or frickin' brick walls. You see options, you see a way over them, a way around them. And resilience is expecting the discomfort. It's the reality that it's going to hurt, but you keep going anyway. And then the growth that comes from that is when you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and you become your own hero.
Yeah, and I think resilience same. I think sometimes resilience builds with those tiny little victories. Because sometimes the hill is pretty big. Whether you're leaving a 30-year marriage, whether you're leaving a job you've worked most of your life that holds security, whether, you're having troubles with friends or families, like sometimes there is a lot of pain and discomfort that's involved in
Yeah.
it. So getting through that first step and then giving yourself a moment to enjoy the fact that you made it through and you were successful. And that gives you the power and the strength
Mhm.
and the resilience to move to the next hurdle.
Mhm. I was talking about this whole concept with my friend Jacqueline. And when I was talking about a prison cell, she liked to frame it in a different way. And I loved this. I wish I would have thought of it. When I said, "You're trapped in a jail cell," she said, "Actually, what if it really isn't a jail cell or a prison? What if it's an escape room? What if the
Oh, I
key"
like
isn't that
that.
great? Isn't that
Yeah.
great? Because the key is
Not if it's an
already
escape room with you because you're terrible in them.
I'm so bad at escape rooms. This is not applicable. No, it is though, because the key is in the room, but yeah, no, I get real bossy in those escape rooms. I don't want to talk about it. Don't ask my family how I behave in an escape room. But anyway, she made me have this amazing aha moment. She's like, "What if the key is already in the room with you?" And I would ask, what's blocking you from grabbing it? And it kind of goes back to that discomfort. You have to find clues, right? You have
Right.
to solve
Yeah.
puzzles. And that to me is the metaphor for the going through it, for the transition. And so, this litmus test that I always apply. Listeners, when you do this homework assignment, and I want you to do it and report back to me when you write down everything that's going wrong in your life and everything that you're pissed off about, you cross out the things that you absolutely cannot control. Again, you will find that most of the things you can. But what I want you to ask yourself is, when you pursue these things, what is the real consequence that is going to happen? Basically ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen? Leaving the job, the relationship, your comfort zone. What are you really afraid of? Is it failure, rejection, discomfort? And what's so interesting is that when you ask most people what they're afraid of, it's not failing. It's not even the discomfort. It's judgment. It is the judgment that other people have if we fail. It's not us failing. Studies have shown that people aren't as afraid of failing as they are other people judging them for failing. And I find that so interesting. But that's a good exercise to go through. What are you really afraid of? And ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if you do this thing? That's the middle that you're focusing on, the hardship. But then reframe it and say, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen if you stay exactly where you are? And maybe even ask an additional question. What's the best thing that could happen when you get on the other side of that discomfort? And that is the goalpost for me, is looking at what is the best thing that could happen. That's what gets me through those dark days when I'm in the middle of that transition.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, like, what's the best thing that could happen when I become the co-host? Like, I see it. I can see it, right? No, I totally agree. I think you're right. I think the most interesting part that you said that really resonated with me the most is that the key is within us. No matter what the challenge, no matter bad relationship, bad job, the key is within us. We have to set ourselves free
Yeah.
and find the pathway out of the escape room.
Yeah. And that's why when I do my Wednesday, what are you pissed off about? I always end it with, listen, let's vent. Let's talk about all the things we're pissed off about. Let's talk about everything that is going wrong, everything that has ailed us, all the people who have wronged us. Let's talk about it. Great. But my final question after venting is, okay, what are you going to do about it? The
Love
jail
it.
cell is open. The key is in your hand. So, what are you going to do about it? And the biggest takeaway, listeners, is that you get to choose. Do you stay in the cell and decorate it with excuses, or do you disrupt your own life and walk out of the door?
Love it.
So I think a good place to land here is that disruptors don't wait for permission. We don't wait for the door to swing wide open. We kick it off the hinges if we have to. So stop waiting. That jail cell is open and you hold the key. Until next week, onward and upward, my fellow disruptors. Keep on disrupting.
See you next week.